Perfect. All righty. Let's kick this off. For everybody online and in person, this meeting is being recorded. So just so you know. One. And then two, during the Q&A, if there is anything, thank you. During the Q&A, if there's anything confidential to this room, or that's something that we do not want to say off the record, we will just mention it, and then when we stop the recording, we will let you know. Ta-da! This is something it hasn't done in a while. There we go. There you go. All righty, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our third anniversary. I was thinking the other day about how this whole thing started, and I remember the first anniversary that we had. It was about 4 of us in one of our old offices with a homemade cake by yours truly. And actually there was more. There was Sam there as well, and we kind of got together, like celebrated a little bit, and then the second year, which was last year, we had some attendees as well. And then this year we even have more. And so we're looking forward to growing the audience every year. So I am going to start with some health and safety briefing. So in case of fire, there's a door that way. So please run that way. Hopefully there is none, because there's 12 flights of stairs that you have to run down. Lisa, who is not here yet, but in case of fire, she's our fire warden. So you'll see her with the high-vis vest. In terms of earthquake, they say keep calm. Do that if you can, otherwise drop cover and hold. And something that you will more likely need than the fire and earthquake debrief is bathrooms. So male bathrooms are just here, and the female bathrooms are past the elevators to your left, and then again left. You do need key fobs to get in and out, and we have left a couple of them on the round table just outside. So please make sure you take them with you, and please make sure you bring them back. If you go out and get stuck, there is a phone number in an email that I sent yesterday. That's Ruby's phone number. Please make sure you text her so you don't stay stuck outside. And then lastly, a quick safety about the robot. So she is going to do a presentation today. She will be available for Q&A later. Please do not touch her. Some of the commands that might cause some harm to it have been turned off, like walking, for example, so it doesn't walk off the table. But in the off chance that you ask it to stand up and then sit down and it falls, don't touch it. It will get back up on its own. And if there's an issue, let me know. Perfect. So lastly, before I hand over to the team, I wanted to go through the agenda today. So we do have a mix of presentations and announcements today. So they're a mix of both commercial and technical. So I hope that you enjoy both of them. And then we aim to close all the presentations and the Q&A in the end, and then we'll have a small celebration and a birthday cake. For anybody online who is not here for the birthday cake, next time you see me in person, I will shout you a cupcake. And lastly, for the Q&A, for the first 4 questions, we do have some giveaways. For those of you online, next time you see me, I will give you your giveaways. Perfect. With all of that, I am now going to hand over to John Griffith from Austin, Texas, who is our worldwide sales rep. John, over to you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Saba. Everybody hear me coming through 5x5? I just want to make sure. Sounds good. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Thank you for joining us on such a great, kind of afternoon. Celebrations here all around, just for all involved. For anybody who doesn't know me, John Griffith, I lead up the worldwide sales and marketing piece for MACSO out of Austin, Texas, of all places. So I've got some spring Texas wildflowers on for anybody in the know. And we're going to look through some business and partnerships updates from my side of the business here this afternoon to get things kicked off. So let's jump right in and kind of talk through just some initial aspects of kind of setting the table here. So, what are we here to do? What is MACSO here to provide? In that sense, we're here to provide, sensory AI integration for the hardware folks and the end users that could really get the value out of it. We've, kind of found over the last 3 years that this isn't necessarily a straight line from us to them. We've worked on building partnerships, building customer relationships, and what we've ended up with is just kind of this ecosystem that's just kind of naturally come about among kind of three different pillars here. We've got, on the left side here, just kind of the semiconductor manufacturers and distributors, just the pure play hardware folks, sensor manufacturers in the middle that we're actually taking, data intake from so we can run, obviously the AI models through it and derive value. And then on the right side, the actual end customers in the industry verticals that are, getting the value through. And there's examples for each all the way through it. So, we know we can't do it alone at this point. We're leaning into that. And that's a little bit of kind of what I wanted to dig deeper with everybody here as we get into it a little more this afternoon. One of the pieces that I've taken over the past, 6 months that I've been on board is just kind of some market feedback from how we're trying to, from a business perspective, engage with folks. There were a certain number of folks that, upfront investment didn't necessarily work, something that we wanted to work on, internalize, and respond to. And so really we came up with kind of three engagement models that we're going to be going to market with moving forward, kind of thought out to, startups, mid-market, and enterprise as kind of those three different animals with kind of customized approaches for them as we're going to meet them where their business is. There's two conversations there: a technology conversation, which we definitely want to have, but also a business conversation that we want to, be cognizant of where folks are in their financial aspects and be able to work with them as best we can to end up with good technology solutions at the end of the day, because that's what we're all looking for, at the end of a positive, interaction with partners or customers. From there, I want to jump into a couple of specific things here from just the lines of business that we have. Animal health is where we started initially, so I figured that'd be the good one to kind of show off and kick off the specifics here. We've come a long way since the initial commercialization here. Kind of the latest and greatest pieces of kind of what we're doing in the space are basically on the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere, if you want to break it down that way, just on the globe. On the left side here for the European kind of EMEA centered customers that we're working with a large farms partner that's in the space there. Very good experience, very good business connections in that realm of the world. We have an MOU signed with them in late 23. We're really digging in with a lot of the testing and POCing that we're running in that part of the world right now. They've got a lot of hardware in hand. They're actively moving into the testing phase for the cough detection devices, and I think at a really good time as well for just some worldwide swine flu stuff going on in both hemispheres that we're talking about here. But really strong results kind of expected from the Spain testing that we're going to be doing. Really excited about their vertical experience from that perspective, and we're really excited about the potential to scale there as well for how much business they're in that part of the world. Kicking over into the Eastern Hemisphere, kind of along the same lines, two large commercial pig farms in China. We are, pretty much along the same lines of into some really good testing. There's maybe another one that's going to come alongside with another group we're talking to in the region there. But we've got active testing going on right now, kind of meeting the current needs for some outbreak that's going on there as well. Kind of the model is being proven one day at a time as we're deploying devices there. And again, it's a really excellent chance to scale up and out into that region of the world that just is so specific in pork production as far as what they're bringing to market. So jump forward, and air quality is kind of our other big commercialized use case we have deployed and providing value in the market. PR Systems is our partner of note there for the customer that we've partner rather that we've done the most with in the space so far. Again, another MOU signed in 23. We've got deployed devices scaling out into the market that we've, kind of ascertained with them. And really, me and them are jumping into new verticals to find some new space there for some devices to spread out. Think, schools for smoke and vape detection, hospitality, hotels, anything like that, and then state and local government. Anybody that is looking to have smoke and vape out of a certain number of spaces for health reasons or otherwise, that's who me and Pierre are working towards trying to get solutions for. And then on the right side, building some new use cases in the space. We've had parallel conversations going on across a multitude of different use cases around harmful airbornes. Think molds, allergens, dusts. Something that can cause temporary effects or actual, long-term illnesses is kind of the things that we're thinking about in the space, so where we can have the most positive effect we feasibly can with the technology that we want to lay out to solve for those issues. And then we're trying to research the market trends at the end of the day, because we know things are going to ebb and flow, and we're trying to aim those types of use cases and business is where we're, thinking the target's going to be over the next 3 to 5 years, just in tune of where we're going to meet that business as well. And lastly, coming back through and kind of laying it down to its foundations again, partners. Why do partnerships matter for MACSO in the vein of, kind of what our mission is here? Talking, to the top, we're here to bring edge technology solutions to where it can really provide the most benefit for folks. And what we found is, everybody doing their specialty in a business relation, especially where you're bringing multiple, folks together to create a solution, let them play to their strengths is really what we found. So MACSO loves software. We love development. We love the crazy cool things that we can do with technology from the AI side. That's where we want to be. We can bring in folks that, can provide the hardware, can provide the design for platforms, for, integration across, different technology layers, sensors, anything along those lines. We can find folks to bring to bear where we can let them do what they do from a hardware perspective, let us do what we're really good at. And boy, the results have just been gangbusters so far when we just build that ecosystem from the first slide I was talking about. Anything from defining use cases to discovery of new use cases is what we're looking for in a positive partner relationship. I don't want to make anybody blush that's on the call or anything, but Avnet in particular for the last 6 months or so has been just a lights out partner for us. Again, just a couple of examples. Partnered marketing, we're really enjoying getting out and about with them, in tune of conferences, showing our technology running on their hardware in active demos, things along those lines. The partner capabilities that they've brought in, again, let them be the hardware component. We even got to, chock-a-block with their sensor specialist for all of the stuff that they have in the barn to, bring into the conversation for us. And we are just so excited to dig deep with them and see what solutions we can bring together. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're after, just an ecosystem where we're all going to be greater than the sum of our parts at the end of the day for when we're actually providing solutions to customers and getting things in place to do cool things on the edge, just like we want to do. Lastly, here one more, just in terms of a kind of, not to toot our own horn or anything, but just kind of a check-in on things we've actually gotten done within the last 6 months, and then a couple of things that we're excited about for the later stages and summer months of this year. So signed partnerships here on the left. Of course, shout out again to Avnet. Great use case for hardware, software, co-marketing, all the things we're looking for in partnerships. You can read through. We're excited about some Edge AI Vision Alliance specifics and a couple other keys there for folks that have really helped us grow within the last year and a half or so. Commercialized use cases in the middle here. We're really digging in with some new development that I'm very excited about and to being able to get to some end user customers with. And some of the classics are there along with some new stuff that we're really digging deep on to create some really neat tech around. for some edge use case stuff that hopefully is going to find well placed deployments as we get it out there. And then lastly, on the right side, just partnerships that we have in the pipeline currently developing. Maybe a couple of folks on the phone may blush as well here for being specifically called out, but we're really excited about getting in with these hardware providers, these services providers, where we can dig in with them again, create some great solutions for some end user customers that they're speaking to on the vein of what can be possible with their hardware, and we're looking forward to what we can bring to bear for a market that needs good technology down the road here for the second half of this year. So with that, I think that is it for me. I will look forward to anybody's questions at the end here once we get through the rest of the prezos. Again, thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate the time and attention. And Saba, I will hand it back over to you. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, John. One of the most frequently received pieces of advice since I became a founder and CEO was, if you want to succeed, delegate as much as you can. And the most frequently asked question that I get from people is, what does your platform do? So what I have done for this presentation is I've delegated the answer to that question to our 7th employee, Ada, named after Ada Lovelace. And please don't faint. And so she is going to do a presentation for you today. At the end of it, I am going to ask her to go to sleep so you don't see what just kept happening, continue happening. I am going to be loud. For those of you who have kids, you will understand why.
Hello, welcome everyone. My original name was now given to me by SoftBank Robotics. I was then purchased by Saba, who renamed me to Ida, after Ida Lovelace. Today, I am happy to present to you a brief about MACSO technologies. MACSO team are creating a platform that can process different sensory inputs. Think about it. Humans can see danger. They can hear, smell, or touch. This way, they can sense if their life is in danger. But we can't have humans everywhere, can we? That is why MACSO is creating the platform that can understand data from different sensors. They want to monitor different environments, save lives, and operational costs. I am looking forward to their presentations today. I hope you are as well. Thank you for listening to me. I will be available for questions later on. I will hand over to Saba now.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ada? All right. Now for this part, ask everybody to just be quiet. Ada, go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Okay, nice to get some rest. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you. With that in mind, now we are going to dig into some of the other technical presentations. So as John mentioned, we have extended the animal health solution, originally started in US and New Zealand. So we did extend that to China and Europe at the back of some of the challenges that the US market was facing. But all of these expansions and talking to customers wouldn't be possible without a platform that can actually cater to these markets. So I am going to hand over to Philip Rivard, our TinyML engineer, who's going to talk to you about what is it that we've actually done with that platform and how it's serving all those other markets. Phil, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Saba. Give me a second. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name's Phil, and I'm a TinyML engineer here at MACSO. I'll be going over some of the advantages we've made on the MACSO Animal Health Monitor project over the past year. The MACSO Animal Health Monitor is a sensor which has an AI built directly into it that detects pig coughs. This AI was trained on hours and hours of pig cough data from a variety of farms in New Zealand, US, and China. So basically, anytime the device picks up on a cough, it flashes red, as you see in this image here, and then sends that detection to our online dashboard. The power of this system is that farmers now have a trained ear listening into their farm 24/7 for any health outbreaks. So essentially, this can significantly reduce costs and help the overall farm if there's any deaths, those kind of things resulting from these sicknesses. So here I have a video which demonstrates that alert system I just explained, where we do hear a cough and then the device should send a text message alert to my phone. So as you see right there, I just received the text message. So essentially how it works is the device picks up on coughs once it reaches a certain threshold of total coughs in a certain amount of time, like maybe 1 day. We send that alert to the farmer's phone with the specific device that did hear those coughs. Great. So one thing that I do want to go over is one of the most important features of our technology, which is Edge AI. Edge AI is essentially the fact that the artificial intelligence which detects pig coughs is happening directly on the device itself rather than the cloud. So typically devices that have AI for audio, they stream that audio data to the cloud, and then the AI does the detection in the cloud. The big advantage of doing everything on the edge means that we don't have to send any of that data to the cloud, so the farms don't have to constantly send data from their Wi-Fi network to our servers, which means lower costs, and then obviously the internet connection is typically not super stable in these rural environments. So it allows our device to perform at a high level, even with a bad Wi-Fi connection. So here I've got an image of our device on an actual farm. I've circled it in red, the device. The key thing to note here is the distance we have above the pigs when we deploy these devices. Here it's about 1.5 meters. And the reason for this is we want the device as close as possible to the pigs, but at the same time, we can't have the pigs reaching for the device and biting it, for example. So this is kind of the sweet spot that we've established. Awesome. Now that I've gone over the basics of the device and how it works, I'd like to share the additions we've made to the product over the last year. One of our first and major improvements to the platform was to make the device installation process for farmers much easier with these sensors. So just to give a bit more context, the way we used to do the initial installation process was we actually required a MACSO employee or engineer to physically go to the farm and actually put the Wi-Fi credentials from the code into the device. So we had to take out our computers, get a cable out, plug it into the device, figure out the Wi-Fi at that barn. It was a complete disaster, and it took so much time. And obviously that does not scale if we want more and more farmers using the product. So what we developed was an app called the MACSO Installer app that does all of this automatically, essentially just through the app. So I'll go over exactly how that works here with the app. So the first step, of course, is to download the app from the App Store. It's available on the Google Play Store and the Apple Apps iOS App Store. Once it's downloaded and the farmer logs in, they're prompted with this map here, and then a little plus icon at the top right, which I have an arrow pointing to it. Once we click this plus icon, we can add our first device that we're going to install in the barn. Once that plus icon's clicked, we have the camera pulled up for the app, and we actually have to point the camera to the QR code on the device. Essentially, the reason for the QR code, you can think of it as essentially a barcode that helps us identify the exact device that we're configuring. So when we scan it, our backend is basically fully in tune of which device we're sending those Wi-Fi credentials to. Next is where we actually enter the Wi-Fi credentials for that device that we just scanned. The farmer simply just has to type that in here in these text boxes and then click next. Obviously, it's critical for us to get the device connected to the Wi-Fi because that's how we send alerts to our dashboard and to the farmer's phone through the text messaging and emailing system. Perfect. So finally, the last step is to place the device exactly on the farm where it will be located when it's deployed. So here we're just arbitrarily putting it on this map, for example. But once you click finish, then the entire process is complete. I've got a video here demonstrating that last part of the system so you can get a better idea of what it looks like in real life. So what I'm doing now is I'm clicking finish. And here you can see the device is blue, which means that we haven't connected yet. Now it's yellow, which means the device is connected to the Wi-Fi network. And then now it's green, which means that the device is fully configured and it's connected to our dashboards and it's ready to detect any coughs. Awesome. Now that we've seen how to install our devices on the farm, let's go over how to actually manage these devices with our new MACSO dashboard. Similar to the MACSO installer app, we have an app on the iOS and Android App Store for the dashboard, and we also have a website to cater to as many farmers as possible. It's also important to note that we are aware that many farmers are likely not using apps or websites that often in their day-to-day lives. So that's why we emphasize that text messaging and email system so often, just because if the farmers have that part of it set up, technically the dashboard is, I guess, less important because they're getting those critical alerts. They see the exact device that is getting that alert, and then they can just act accordingly. Here's a quick demonstration of one of the main aspects of the dashboard. It's the map. So if you look closely, you can see all of your devices on the map that are online or that are reporting coughs. Here you can see device 8 is online, but the pigs are healthy there. Device 2, which is in red, is a device that is also online, but the pigs are reporting coughs. And then device number 1 is a device that's offline, maybe because there's a power outage or a Wi-Fi issue at that location. And the last part I'll go over on the dashboard is the alarm system. As I went over, alarms do get sent to the farmer's phone through text message, but also they can see all the history of the alarms here, and they can see exactly when they occurred and which device occurred. And they can also address the alarms by adding comments or clearing them out if they've already dealt with those pigs and provided medicine, for example. Great. So that's basically the main elements of the dashboard, but there was and there is one issue with this dashboard, and that's that it does not work in China. This is, of course, normal because China has a firewall, and any apps or websites outside of China typically get blocked. So that meant that what we needed to do was create a native solution in China as well. So a dashboard system and a firmware for our devices using AWS China in the backend. So what you're seeing here is the dashboard. It's very similar to the other dashboard we developed for North America, but the one key difference is we do have a WeChat app because a lot of Chinese customers do prefer WeChat instead of directly downloading the dashboard from the App Store. Great. So now that we've seen how the whole system works, let's take a look at our new MOU with one of the largest animal health pharmaceutical companies in the world. In this MOU, we're running a variety of experiments that test the efficiency of our system in an environment of sick, coughing pigs. The goal is to demonstrate how valuable early detection can be to a farmer's bottom line and how our animal health monitor sensors are a critical piece in a disease-free farm. That's it for my side of things. Thanks so much for listening. Now I'll pass it on to Saba, our CEO.
Fantastic. Thank you, Phil. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this use case and are wondering why we're doing what we're doing and why we've gone to such an extent to create what we have, 60% of swine death around the world comes from respiratory illnesses. And we have proven using our own case study with one of our farms in the US that we have managed to reduce their death rate by about 75% using the solution just by being able to alert them early enough so they can intervene. The next presenter is Vincent Russell. Vincent is an aerosol physicist and one of our machine learning engineers. Now, this next use case that you're going to see is completely different from the animal health use case, but it is built on the same MACSO platform. And this just shows you the power of this platform and how it can extend from one use case to another. Vincent, over to you.
Thank you, Saba. Hello, everyone. My name is, thank you for coming, and thank you to everyone online for coming. My name is Vincent, and I'm a machine learning engineer at MACSO, and I'm going to show you how we integrate artificial intelligence into air quality sensors. So the World Health Organization and the state of global air have both ranked air pollution as the fourth leading risk factor for death globally. Air pollution exposure increases the risk of developing stroke, heart disease, and lung cancer. That the World Health Organization estimates 7 million deaths worldwide. The World Health Organization also estimates 99% of the world's population are breathing air that is above guideline limits. So almost the entire population is breathing unhealthy air. What are these harmful airborne substances that we are breathing, and how can we reduce our exposure to them? There are two main groups of airborne substances, generally speaking. There are gases. These are defined as any individual molecules or atoms dispersed in a medium. For example, nitrogen, oxygen molecules, methane, or volatile organic compounds. And then there are aerosols, or also known as particulate matter. These are defined as any tiny solid or liquid particles suspended in a gas. So, for example, smoke or ash particles, cloud droplets, or mold spores. The image on the left is a 2,000 times magnification of ash particles. This gives us a microscopic view of aerosols. The image in the middle is air pollution from a coking oven, so that's converting coal to coke, a refined fuel. This gives us a macroscopic view of aerosols and gases. And then the image on the right is a satellite image of sand blowing from the Sahara Desert across the ocean. This is giving us a global view of aerosols. And so now that everyone better understands a little bit about airborne substances, how can we prevent, or how can we reduce our exposure to some harmful airborne substances? Well, we can use sensors, and we can integrate artificial intelligence with these sensors. So there are many different types of sensors to detect airborne substances. For example, optical particle counters, which are commonly used to measure aerosols, condensation particle counters used in atmospheric research, electrochemical sensors often used in industrial safety for usually designed to detect specific types of gases, metal oxide semiconductor sensors, low cost found in smart homes, and infrared sensors often used in industrial settings to detect gas leaks. So at MACSO, we partner with sensor companies, and we essentially put artificial intelligence on these sensors. So we make sensors intelligent. So, for example, at Para Systems, this is one of our partner company based in Toronto, Canada. They develop Canary air quality monitors. So this is one of their devices that has integrated an aerosol sensor to detect particles. So it counts particles in 7 different particle size bins, as well as 2 gas sensors, carbon dioxide and volatile organic compounds, along with temperature, humidity, and air pressure. Our first use case was to detect vape for so applying that to schools and hospitality, other public spaces. In 2019, the Food and Drug Administration in the US found that over 27% of high school students and 10% of middle school students or intermediate school students were vaping. And it's not, some research suggests that vaping, especially for young students, may develop some health or lung issues or other potential issues. So to train our AI model, our vape AI model, we needed to collect some data. So we had some volunteers to vape. And so this is on the left in red is the vape data, and in blue is the deodorant data. The reason we collected deodorant is because we believe students may try to mask vaping with deodorant. And deodorant tends to be quite prominent in maybe school bathrooms as well. So to reduce the false positives of our model. So what we noticed when we collected the data is that vape tends to produce a lot of particles, but not as many gases, and kind of the inverse with deodorant. Deodorant tends to produce very few particles, but a lot of gas. And so we believe that by combining these 2 different types of sensors, so combining particle sensors with gas sensors, we can create an advanced, essentially a sensor fusion model that understands different aspects of the air. And so now we will show you a demo of the power of sensor fusion, so combining particle sensors with gas sensors. So this is 2 different models. They're identical models, except the one on the left can only see particles, and the one on the right also sees particles and gas, so it has a volatile organic compound sensor. The model outputs 3 categories. It may be so if it's more to read, but it outputs vape, deodorant, or background. Right now, both models are outputting background at 99%, so that's what the model is predicting. We expect vape tends to produce a lot of particles, so we expect that both models should perform quite well because particles has a lot of information provided. So we see both models go up to 100% vape. And so in the next example, we will see how deodorant performs. Deodorant tends to output, depending on the size, 10 or 20 times fewer particles. However, deodorant tends to produce a lot of gas. So we would expect that with the deodorant example, that the particle and gas model will detect it. The particle model may not detect it. So this is a commonly used, Links Africa, commonly used a bit for the Americans, it will be equivalent to X. And so this is deodorant being produced. Right now it's at 100% background. And we see immediately the model on the right is starting to increase in probability that it thinks it's seeing deodorant based on this data. And we see it's going above 90% that the model thinks it's deodorant. However, the particle-only model cannot determine that it's deodorant. It only sees particles, and there's just not enough particles. That doesn't provide enough information. So at MACSO in the future, we eventually want to incorporate many different types of sensors. So our dream is to create an advanced AI sensor fusion model. Our noses can detect trillions of scents. However, these sensors only have 2 gas sensors. So eventually in the future, with the development of sensors and with our partnerships, we can create advanced AI sensor fusion models. And we've increased automation of air quality systems and improved the energy efficiency of HVAC systems, and we will continue to do so. Thank you very much for listening, and hand it back to Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you, Vincent. Yeah, so as you just saw, the first use case was just the one sensor. Of course, many models run on these devices. The second use case, a completely different one with air quality, is two sensors being combined together. Now, lastly, I'm going to, sorry, not the last presenter, but the last kind of sensor technical presentation. I'm going to hand over to Han, one of our AI engineers, who is now going to talk to you about the third example of sensor fusion built on the same platform.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Han, and I'm an AI engineer at MACSO. Today, I'm very excited to share with you a practical use case that illustrates the powerful capability of sensor fusion. And in these scenarios, we leverage the Raisin board, which is an affordable edge-based machine learning board developed by Abnet and Sentient. By combining the rich sensor data from the Raisin board, we are able to develop machine learning models that can detect various events with great accuracy. So before we explore more insights from our partners at Abnet, let's see how this technology works and its potential applications. So the Raisin board is equipped with two key sensors, an IMU motion sensor and a digital microphone, which is an audio sensor. These features make it an excellent tool for detecting accidental faults. So today I'll be presenting our work on fault detection, a critical applications in various domains such as elderly care and workplace safety. And what exactly is a fault? A fault can be defined as an unexpected event in which someone comes to rest on the ground, floor, or at a lower level, and often without intention. It is a common health risk faced by various populations, including elderly people, individuals with disabilities, and professionals such as firefighters. And beyond the immediate hurt, a fall can mean losing ability to move or even living independently. And that's why figuring out a way to catch these falls before they lead to bigger problems is very important. And this is where the power of sensor fusion comes into play. By combining information from various sensors, we are able to gain a full pictures of someone's movements and therefore pinpoint any anomalies that may indicate a fall. To detect a fall, we focus on the body's movement patterns and its position in space. There are a couple of key indicators, include the changes in speed, rotational dynamics, and the body's orientation. And to collect this kind of data, we rely on devices such as accelerometers and gyroscopes. These are the integral components of IMU, which is built into the Raisin board. For accelerometers, it gives us information about the linear acceleration of an object in 3 dimensions. For example, up and down, side to side, and forward and backwards. It is great at measuring sudden changes in acceleration, which are very common during a fall. However, this data alone doesn't provide a complete picture. The gyroscope, on the other hand, it measures the angular velocity, indicating how fast the body turns in 3 dimensions. And this is important because when an object falls, it often doesn't just move in a straight line. So if a person tumbles or spins while falling, the gyroscope can pick up on that easily. And now let's explore how we can use the data from the accelerometer and gyroscope to distinguish between different types of movements. In this particular case, I have gathered data for 4 distinct motion categories: falling, shaking, moving a circle, and moving a snake-like pattern. When we collect data from the accelerometer and gyroscope, we are dealing with high-dimensional data, which means there are numerous features and variables to consider. And to make this easier to understand and visualize, we can apply techniques that can reduce the data's dimensionality. And one popular technique for this purpose is called UMAP, which is short for Uniform Manifold Approximation and Projection. The underlying mathematics for UMAP is quite complex, and for the sake of this discussion, we will focus on its practical application. As we can see in the first plot, when we apply UMAP to just acceleration data alone, we can see some clustering of the different motion categories. The data points tend to group together to some extent, but there are still quite a bit of overlap. Now, looking at the gyroscope data alone, we can see even less clear separation between each motion categories. And this suggests that relying on each type of sensor data alone may not be sufficient for our machine learning model to accurately classify these diverse types of motions. So what happens if we combine the accelerometer and gyroscope data together? As is shown here, the results are striking. we can observe significantly clear clusters for each type of motions. The clusters are more distinctly separated, tightly packed, and their boundaries are better defined. These observations demonstrate that the fusion of data from both sensors result in a stronger and definitely more accurate representation of the movement patterns. However, this brings out another important question. Is the data from the IMU really enough? While it is essential for fall detection, the real challenge lies in whether this alone allows our model to differentiate between a genuine fall and other similar activities, such as lying down on a bed or sitting down swiftly. For instance, when someone falls onto a bed quickly, the repeat changes in acceleration and orientation might closely resemble those of a fall. So how can our model distinguish between these scenarios? In this video clip, I have attached a resin board to a small figurine. The board is loaded with a model trained on IMU data, as I previously showed you. As we can see in this video, the model successfully detects the first two instances, which I call it unsafe fall because I just pushed the object directly to the ground. And we can also see that the model ignores any background movements or noises that are not false. However, when I push the figure onto a soft buffer material, mimicking bed or sofa in real life, the model now incorrectly identifies it as a fall. And this highlights the challenge of relying solely on the IMU data for fall detection. And to address this issue, we want to incorporate additional contextual information that can help the model to tell the difference between a genuine false and other non-fall events. And that's where the audio data comes in handy. As I mentioned before, the resin board has a microphone that can listen to the sounds around it. So when a person falls, there are often distinct noises that happen, like a loud thud or the sound of impact. These sounds are remarkably different from the softer and more muffled noises that are associated with someone lying down or falling down onto a soft surface. So here I have gathered some audio data and incorporated into our model, and let's see how it affects the model predictions. And just to let you know that the model I'm using here was trained on a 7-minute dataset that I compiled. The data size is actually quite small for our audio model, but it serves to show you how by combining different types of data, we can still enhance the model accuracy. As we can observe, when the audio data is incorporated, the model continues to successfully detect the first two unsafe falls. And this is great news, as it means that the new audio data hasn't compromised the model's ability to identify genuine falls. Now focusing on the safe fall scenario. When the figurine falls onto the soft material, there is no loud impact noises that will happen as it fell onto a solid surface. So even though here the motion sensor picked up the fall, the lack of audio cue means that there is no alert raise overall. And this is exactly what we want. And this is the final prediction results. As we can see, the model now can effectively differentiate between an unsafe fall on a solid surface and a safe fall on a soft surface. It can make a more informed decisions by considering both the motion data from the IMU and the contextual information, the audio information from the audio sensor. Well, I hope this presentation has provided you a bit of overview of how sensor fusion works. Thank you all for your attention today. I will now hand it back to Saba.
Fantastic. Thank you, Han. So as you see, we're trying to make sensors intelligent is basically what we're doing. And if you look at the 2023 data, we had about 15 billion IoT sensors out there, and that number is only increasing. Where we see MACSO in the next 5, 8, 10 years is having an AI model on as many of these sensors as possible, saving lives, saving money, doing all the good things out there. However, as we scale, it becomes very important how we manage all of these sensors in the backend. Who has access to what kind of data? What level of access? How do we update these models that go online? How do we do a health check on these devices? Which ones are online? Which ones are offline? Which ones are broken? Which ones received the latest update? Which ones did not? To do that, we need a platform that can help us to achieve that goal. Now, earlier on in John's presentation, he did mention about our partnership with one of the largest electronic distributors in the world called Avnet. This partnership was signed in January. We're very excited. There's a lot of value out that both parties are bringing to the table. Now, one of the things that Avnet is providing us is called IoT Connect. Now, Keaton from Avnet is now going to talk to you about how this platform works. Keaton, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Saba. And thank you to everyone. We're super excited to get to be a part of this. Just want to, again, wish congratulations to MACSO. Very excited to be celebrating this with you. So I'm going to take a brief moment to talk about IoT Connect. But before I dive too much into that, let me show you a little bit of credentials around who Avnet is and why I feel like we're qualified to talk a little bit on this topic. So Avnet is a electronics distributor, as was lined up. Our bread and butter has been for the longest time being able to ship electronic components. And for a while, those were kind of boring things like capacitors and resistors, stuff like that. But as time has gone on, we've gotten progressively more into what we would consider to be smart devices, anything that's going to be connected. So you can see from this, we shipped over 283 billion devices. This might actually even be, I think, a little bit outdated, but it's a large number and says that we have the supply chain backing that we need to be able to support really any opportunities as they grow in scale. But one thing that we're particularly proud of recently is all of the acquisitions that we've been able to make within that technology space. So as I mentioned before, bread and butter has been electronic components for a long time, but we've really tried to grow into this new connected technology space. Some of that has been through an acquisition of a company called SoftWeb Solutions, which is where our IoT Connect platform is coming from. And so we're really excited about what we're doing with MACSO. We think that they're a perfect partner for this. You can see all of the different technology that they're bringing. And we think IoT Connect is a great engine through which we're going to be able to bring a lot of these new technologies to mass market. So with that, let me talk a little bit about IoT Connect. One of the things that really becomes important when you're building an IoT solution is going very quickly. You want to be able to truly fail fast. And I know that's such a buzzword, but as Philip had mentioned earlier, when you're kind of doing connection of devices, you need to be able to learn very quickly and adjust as you go. You don't want to spend a lot of time creating a user template, or how do I be able to onboard devices? How can I even be able to tell if that connection process is working? And that's where IoT Connect is going to come in. So what the goal of IoT Connect is to take things like connected soap dispensers or industrial gateways and be able to streamline the process through which we bring out those business insights. So things like, hey, how often is that soap dispenser being used? Should we be able to go in and send a maintenance person to potentially adjust it? If we don't have to send them, then that's a nice thing. We don't have to have maybe as much staff. We can start to try to automate that. Additionally, you could look at predictive maintenance. Could we be able to go in and try to work on that gateway quicker to make sure that that line doesn't go down? And the way that we are doing this is through a single pane experience, a single pane of glass web experience that's built on AWS. So we take all of the needed services, things like Amazon QuickSight or S3, Greengrass, IoT Core, and we pull them into one common ecosystem that's going to be IoT Connect. So you're not having to recreate any of those functions. You just use IoT Connect once, and you can lift and shift to as many things as you might need to. So I'm going to jump into what this looks like in the real world. So this is the IoT Connect platform. And I'm going to just kind of briefly touch on a few features. Obviously, there's a whole lot more that we can do with this, but let's just try to take a look at some really unique things that we think we can bring. First is we have you just kind of drop into a base dashboard, and we've tried to provide you a kind of user interface that might be helpful. But maybe you're trying to do a lot more with particular location tracking, or this isn't exactly what you need. We do have a quick dynamic dashboard feature that you can be able to go in. So I'm going to name this the very unique new dash as I go in and create it. And then I have the ability to just pull in different widgets after this gets created to be able to drag onto the canvas. So in this case, that once that dashboard's created, I can go in and bring in things like a device tracker that will have a map to be able to show location of where these devices are. I could be able to pull in things like an image if I need to show a user, or a pie chart. I have the ability to set a user counter. All these different things are just available, and you can use it really as a drag and drop model to be able to get exactly what you need to then show a customer or show a technology very quickly. Once I'm happy with that, I can then go in and quickly save that device. And now this can be either exported, so I can be able to re-upload it, or I can be able to go ahead and share this link without requiring an IoT Connect login. And so one of the features that we've really tried to highlight here is we want to go fast. We want to be the quickest way to connect to the cloud. We want to make it so that your dashboard is able to pull those details immediately, and you can be able to start showcasing a technology very rapidly. Additionally, we do have the ability to create different entities. So this allows us to be able to do segmentation by location. And one of the beauties of that, as you can see here, is I've already gone in. If I have factories in, say, Denver, Paris, and New York, I can go ahead and segment those devices. I don't have to recreate the wheel on that in all 3 locations. I can just segment them. I can choose whether they want to be able to see each other's data, or I can segment them so that they are blocked and I can only see the data that I need to. After I've set up the locations that I want to, I then can go in and set up device templates. And what this allows me to do is set the parameters through which we're going to track different sensors. So we talked a lot about all the sensors that'll be captured today, all the data that we're capturing. We can then go in and set up those device templates to see those different sensors. So in this case, I've set up this demo device template. And I'm tracking 3 different attributes for this. So I've set up a temperature check, which is going to be an integer, a humidity, which is a decimal, and then a tamper check to see if someone's opened the device, and that's going to be a Boolean function. And once I've created a device to that, which you will see this demo device 1 that has been set to that device template, I can then do some really interesting things. So in this case, I do have the ability to go ahead and turn a simulator on for that. So I can say, okay, for the next 5 minutes or so, I'd like you to go ahead and run and create fake temperature signals. So I can be able to start developing. I may not even have the board in front of me, and I can start creating immediately using IoT Connect. Once that device is up and running and I'm starting to see different data that's coming through, I can then do things like smart rules. And this is where it gets really cool. So in this case, you'll see I have this demo device template for that device that I just created. And I can go in and set rules on different attributes to say, if a particular threshold has been hit, so in this case, if temperature is greater than 50, that may be hot or cold, depending on what temperature grade you're using, you will then trigger some actions. And that could be things like shutting down the device if it's particularly problematic. Or I could send an email to everyone who's been a part of that. You can see I can even change the body format of the email. I can do things like webhook or hit a UI notification. Really, the possibilities are endless there. And so what you're seeing is that we're able to take a device that I didn't have in front of me a second ago and a template, a dashboard that I didn't have in front of me. And now I'm at a potential where I could start looking at if this potentially was over threshold, or we do have the ability to do smart rules. So if the temperature and humidity do something, then I can start triggering effects. So we're going from the notifications from those sensors, the data that's coming in, to an application and business results in a very quick manner. To combine this really here at the end, and kind of my last piece I just want to talk out, we do have the ability to then also push model updates to those devices. So we see this partnership with MACSO. These guys are going in, they're developing technology, they're training models that will set the future of how devices are going to be able to track and be able to use sensor data to create real notifications like the pig tracking, like the fall detection. We want to be able to match that side by side by creating a super quick ecosystem to get a device connected. I will tell you, just as a last sign off note, that we've done this with a ton of different sensor technologies, a ton of different board technologies. We see all of these as things that you could set up within minutes. So we're very excited about the product, and we look forward to being able to showcase it more, hopefully in the future. But just a quick thanks again to MACSO, and I'm going to hand it back to Saba.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keaton. As I was looking at that last list that Keaton was showing, and kind of going back to John's earlier presentation, some of the lists of those hardware partners that you saw are also on our pipeline to sign similar partnerships with in the next quarter or two, to basically bring all of this ecosystem of software, hardware, distributor, and end customer together. Now, last but not the least, we have Juan here, who's the head of machine learning and engineering. We've seen specific examples of every single use case, but what Juan is going to talk to you about is that underlying IP and the underlying platform that is enabling all these different use cases. Juan.
Hey, sorry, one second. Yep, my name is Juan. I'm the head of machine learning, and I'm in charge of leading the development of extending our use cases of sensors to lots of different sensors and protecting our IP. And one way you can protect your IP is through the use of patents. So we have filed 3 patents, and I'll go through them really briefly. The first one is the artificially intelligent animal health monitor, which is essentially what Phil showed in his presentation. But I really want to emphasize that it's not limited to just pigs. It can be any sort of animal. That's why it's animal health monitor, not pig health monitor. The second is an artificially intelligent noise filter, and this one actually operates inside the animal health monitor because you're trying to listen for audio signals like pigs, whether they're coughing, and farms are not quiet places. So you need some way to sort of filter out the sound so you can really isolate the pig cough. But the thing is that our noise filter doesn't just work for audio. It can work for any time series signal. So why not be a standalone patent? But it operates inside there, but it can operate on many other things. The third one is an artificially intelligent uncertainty quantifier, or ARUQ for short. And this one's not going to be easy to explain. It's a little bit abstract, but I'm going to try to give a really high-level overview today of trying to show how it works. So I'm going to do it through like an example. It's going to be a little game. If I show you this picture, how tall do you think this guy is, like in centimeters? Anyone want to guess? If you try use the American system, I won't know because I don't really know feet. Nothing? Well, okay. I reckon he's about, let's say, 174, 175. And along with that guess, if I were to ask you a second question, how sure are you of your guess? If I were to say 180, how sure are you that this guy's 180? You're probably fairly sure because the guy's standing next to a car. Cars are usually standard height. So based on that, you have a pretty good idea. So this is like a illustration of what uncertainty is. And to really emphasize the point, I'll do a contrasting example. If I ask you, how tall is this guy? Yeah, you're probably not sure, right? So he's standing in a field. The grass is like, you don't know how tall this grass is. If it's like a wheat field, the guy's a giant. If it's like astroturf, the guy's a midget, right? He's wearing loose clothing. He's way further away. So if I ask you, how tall is he? You probably can give an answer. But if I ask you how certain you are, it's going to be way different from the other one. And now to give you, I guess, another illustration of, if I give you a little bit more information. Suppose I told you it's Sam standing there. And for those who don't know Sam, I haven't seen him in real life, it's to say Bridgeway's had a basketball team, he probably, need like 4 more people. Like, I don't know American system, but he's probably like 9'20" or something like that. If I told you that that was Sam standing there, even though you didn't see any other cues, the information will probably reduce uncertainty because you're probably pretty sure the guy is not 160 centimeters, right? So this is an idea of what uncertainty quantification is. Based on information, we can quantify uncertainty. And the thing is that if we can do this, using our intelligence, the function of intelligence, it probably sounds more familiar now. I've explained it to you. It's something you do every day. Every time you try and estimate something, you're also unsure about how you have an idea or some intuition about how sure you are of your guess. And actually, it's not really intuition because, as I've shown to you, it's based on information. And information can be extracted from data. So if we can do it, can artificial intelligence do it? Yes, we can with our patented technology. So this is just an illustrative example. We don't actually measure height using sensors. Although I think we could probably use a camera or a LiDAR, but I'm just brainstorming. Stay tuned for next year where we like measure like height and stuff using a camera. Now I'll talk to an example that we actually use it in production. So in terms of air quality, suppose you want to measure air quality in a building. And air quality depends a lot of times on your air conditioning system and how fast you recycle your air. Because if you don't recycle it fast enough, air particles linger, your air gets stale, it's uncomfortable to be in. And even worse, if someone's sick and you've got airborne viruses, it's going to stay there for longer. So you want your HVAC system to be able to cycle air efficiently so that you keep recycling air and get rid of all the bad stuff, but not so strong that either you waste energy or it rips out your eyeballs from like this vacuum and stuff like that. So here is an example. I'm going to keep it really high level. Pretend that it's a number that represents air quality. So I'm not going to get into details about what it is. So you've got 3 sensors and it's sitting out in a field, and together they're measuring a field for the air quality. And you want to average the value of the 3 sensors. So now you want to get into a report back. You go to sensor 1, you ask it, what is the sort of air quality rating that you're reporting? It reports 20. And you ask it a second question, how sure are you of your guess? In a sense, it's like, look, this is standard stuff. Nothing's really strange going on. I'm 10% uncertain. I'm really, really certain that it's 20. Like, great. You go to the second sensor. 23, uncertainty. Yep, very, very sure. Now you go to the third sensor and reports 47, and you think, okay, that's a bit weird. It's a bit higher than the other things. But then you ask what's uncertainty, and it's saying, like, honestly, there's something weird is going on, because something weird can go on when you're measuring stuff. Either someone opens the door too fast, closes the door, walks past the thing, or maybe the sensor's actually broken and it's actually not detecting things well. So you ask it for its uncertainty, and it says, like, I really don't know what's going on because this stuff I'm not used to seeing. Now imagine that you average this without some notion of uncertainty. You do 20 plus 23 plus 47, you average it, the 47 is going to skew it up to some much larger number. But if you have uncertainty, you can set a very simple threshold. You can say that any sensor that reports any uncertainty greater than 30%, we just don't account for it. That way, that you only use 2 sensors to report your average, and you don't actually end up being skewed by some sort of outlier event or some sort of broken sensor that needs maintenance. And hope that kind of makes sense. So uncertainty quantification, there's a lot of really cool math behind it. I'm not going to go into detail here, but if anyone wants to talk to me about it after, I'm more than happy to. So that's our AI UQ pattern, the third one I showed. Now I'm going to give an example of the noise filter, which is going to be so much easier to explain. Here's a use case. Imagine that a drum company wants you to detect the snare drum. So for those who don't know drumming, the kick drum is a very low, deep bass sound. In other spectrum, you've got the crash cymbal, which is a very high-pitched, loud sort of sound. So these two are on the very sides of the spectrum, and in snare, you've got something that's sort of in the middle. It's not as deep as the kick drum, but it is much more, it's not as sharp as the crash cymbal. But when you're trying to detect the snare drum playing, when a drum is playing, it's a lot of stuff going on. They're hitting all the different kinds of drums. So it's going to be very hard. That's why you need noise filtration, because you need to be able to filter out the crash and the kick to hear the snare. So that's a simple thing of how it works. And I'll give, so here's an example of the sounds. The first one is the sound of a snare and kick drum playing at the same time. Can we turn it up, please? There we go. Oh, this might go bad when I hit the crash, but we'll see. Okay, so you can't quite hear the bass drum, but can you see the low frequency that's going on here? Now, if we filter out the bass drum, okay, that example is not as good, so let's try the crash cymbal. You can probably tell by the illustration, this one's going to sound pretty obvious. Yeah, so that's the snare and the crash cymbal playing at the same time. Now let's run through this exact signal through our noise filter. So what do our AI systems hear after filtration has occurred? So you can hear a little bit of the crash, but much of it is gone. And let's see that actually, working an example. So this is a video that I'm going to show. That's me on the drums, but I'm going to explain what you're going to see first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the snare 3 times. And here's my computer terminal with a AI noise filter and classification detecting the presence of the snare. So if I hit the snare 3 times on its own with nothing else, it should detect it just fine. But if I hit the crash cymbal 3 times after, it shouldn't hear anything. There should be no register of a hit because it has been trained to filter out the crash cymbal. And finally, I'm going to hit them both at the same time. And you should still be able to detect the snare, even though the crash is being hit because of the filtration system. And spoiler alert, is exactly what happens. Oh, so I'm going to show this demo. So no register there. Yeah, so even though they're both being played at the same time, what the AI actually filters out is the crash cymbal and focus on the snare. Exactly what we can do as humans when we want to focus on someone speaking in a loud auditorium. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my drum solo, and that's it from me. I'm going to pass it back to Saba.
Fantastic. Thank you, Juan. How do I go back to... Is that where we are? Yes. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to the end of our presentations. We have made a couple of announcements, as you would have seen. So the partnership with AFNIT is one, the MOUs with China, the MOU with one of the largest animal health pharmaceuticals. And now, after achieving all these milestones, we now want to make sure that we can deliver on what we've promised to these customers, we can grow. And therefore, our last announcement for today is that we are now officially kicking off our Series A round. So for those of you who are interested in having a conversation, please do have a chat with me during the break. I am now going to open the floor to Q&A. We will allocate about 10 to 15 minutes to Q&A, and then we'll go and have a little bit of a celebration. Remember, the first 4 questions get a gift. Yes. Hello. Yes. Yeah, that's a really good question. So for those online who may not have heard the question is, what is our experience with regards to selling these AI models when it comes to different customers? So it depends on the industry. So as you would have seen, we touch on different industries. We also touch on different sectors. So whether it's hardware partners, distributors, and then the end customer. Usually when it comes to the end customer, because MACSO's mission is actually enabling those non-digitally native customers to help them ride this wave of AI, it does take a little bit of time to kind of bring them on a journey about what artificial intelligence can do, especially things like health monitoring for swine, which is such a sensitive kind of subject. And basically to address that, we do case studies, we do demos and bring proof points to them to help them kind of bring them on a journey. The other thing is we are addressing some really pressing issues in the world. We actually had a conversation with a farmer in China and asked for his feedback on such sort of solutions. And he said, well, it's better than nothing. Right. So it also depends on the mindset. The ones where we see the growth is much more accelerated is the likes of our hardware partners, because they have been experiencing this need for a lot longer. And so that sales cycle or partnership cycle is a lot quicker. Yes. Hi.
So you mentioned that you're across different industries, so not the agriculture by itself could have you forever and ever full time.
Yeah.
Why? Like why and what? How do you choose what you're going to go in? Because they're very different. You know, like a sniffer in a school versus a sensor in a pig farm versus falling over.
Yeah.
How are you choosing?
Which ones we go after?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. It is something that we do get asked often as well. To answer your question about why, my answer is always why not? When we can, why shouldn't we? But also there is a method to our madness too. So usually when we want to bring in a new use case, there needs to be certain criteria. First thing, there needs to be a real market need. Secondly, there needs to be a sensor that can provide us the data that we need to address that market need. And lastly, we do this through distributors. And that allows us to stay industry agnostic almost, because the distributors are the ones that come with that particular vertical knowledge. It's actually something that we learned at the back of the animal health use case, because we were selling door-to-door to farmers and we realized that's not going to be scalable for us. And therefore now the MOUs that we have signed are with large-scale distributors. Thank you for your question. So, also people online, I wanted to make sure if you have any questions, you can either put your hand up or unmute yourself and turn your camera on. But Brendan.
You're not just making a sensor more intelligent, you're actually making all sensors or combinations of them more intelligent, which is really cool, the examples that you've shown. Some of the biggest sort of AI work in sensor space is probably the image-based space. Do you see combinations within all the progress that's been made on image-based analysis matching with these other sensors, the kinetics, the gases, the sound work, even there? Can you see that merging as well, with sort of that and I'm not expert in the sector, but I think that image piece is really strong, and you have a lot to add to take it that even further.
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer is yes. So for those of you online who don't have the may not have heard the question is, do we see vision kind of becoming part of the platform? The answer is yes, absolutely. One of the reasons why we didn't start with vision is because when we started with the animal health use case. And for an agri-tech setting, vision is very difficult to deploy. It's data heavy. And then usually agricultural setting has a lot of dust or flies, things that can kind of, but whereas a audio is kind of like a 360-degree ear. Oh, I was going to say view, but it's not a view. And so much easier to implement, much more data light. But for use cases where video does make sense, then yes. The other part to that question is, how ready is the hardware that's out there? And I think at the back of the visit that I had to the Edge AI and Vision Summit last year in the Bay Area, there are a lot of companies, Avnet, Halo, NXP, that are creating sensors, vision sensors, that can host AI models on the edge to make them more data light. So to answer your question, yes. But again, we don't create a tool and then go out and look for a problem. As soon as we see a need, then we will bring in vision into the platform as well. Anyone else from the team wants to chip in, please feel free as well. I'm going to see if anyone online has a question. No? Simon. No, we would consider integrating into other software platform. In fact, that's one of our preference. The use case with Piera and our other health air quality customer is exactly that. They have their own alert system. Even our distributors have asked that question: Can you integrate into our existing one? And the answer is yes. Yeah, we will do it for scenarios where it doesn't exist or it makes more sense for us to do it, but no, it's not something we're married to. Yeah. Yeah, we heard that. We heard that loud and clear right in the beginning. Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Saba, quick question from the chat. Can you
sorry.
repeat that last
Go on.
question just to make sure everybody heard?
Yeah,
'Cause I
absolutely.
think-
Sorry about that. Yeah, the question was, because we've created an app for our animal health use case, is our preference that we also create apps for all the use cases that we put out there and provide an end-to-end solution, or are we happy to integrate into other people's existing alert systems? The answer is the latter.
And then we also had one question come through the chat from German here.
Yes.
Just kind of, what is the revenue model? Is there a subscription model per sensor? And I can equate to that a little bit,
Yep.
being the business
Go
guy,
for
I
it.
guess. It's a piece, Dermot, of that slide that we looked at previously from my prezo, where it's going to kind of depend on the customer. Likely if we have, a startup customer that has very, low upfront investment potential, we probably have a subscription model ready for them with very basic models available via subscription model. In the mid-market, there is probably a, per deployed device, licensing model that's associated with those kinds of agreements. And then in the enterprise level, there are definitely, per model licensing, per device licensing agreements that we would put in place for those customers. It's a little bit flexible with where we can meet folks for where they're ready and where they are in the technology journey, how much, front end work is necessary on our side, all the way through, exactly how many models are we deploying per device at the end solution and what that might look like. So I hate to give the answer that it depends, but that's what we're trying to be, is flexible to meet people where they are and make sure they get the solution that they're looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think to summarize that, the main revenue of MACSO will come from the not royal, well, yeah, per sensor subscription that's out there, regardless of how it kicks off, whether it's a startup, no upfront, whether it's a medium, low upfront, and whether it's an enterprise, higher upfront. the recurring revenue will come from subscription per sensor per month. Yeah. Yeah, that's so the question for those on the call was with the funds for Series A, how's the distribution between sales and marketing versus R&D, and if there's a pivot at some point that's going to tip that. So last round that we raised, I think about 85% of the funds went towards R&D. And the rest was sales and marketing and G&A. For Series A, actually these numbers yesterday, so I don't remember them exactly on top of my head, but I think from memory about 23% is now towards sales and marketing. Another, I'm going to say roughly about 20 goes towards like G&A, and then the rest of it goes towards R&D. So there is still, quite a bit of investment into the underlying platform development. The R&D that we do is not just for the sake of R&D, it is to commercialize things out of it. But I think with this fund, we're seeing a significant increase into the sales and marketing activities. Okay, the question is, do we see us rewarding the channel partners? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like what we do. Every customer that we talk about, because again, we don't sell to the end customer. Like we don't sell to the schools, we don't sell to the hotels, we don't sell to the farms. We sell to people who sell to those farms and to those schools. And there's always a profit margin for them. That's every customer we talk to. We basically tell them, if our technology is costing you $1, you should be able to sell that for 10. Awesome. Any more questions online? No, we don't. All right. And I think we have the 4 giveaways. I do remember the first 2, 3. Who was the 4th person that asked the question? Simon. Okay. All right. Cool. No, we will give you water bottles. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. For those of you online, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to leave the bridge open, but we are going to stop the recording. Feel free to stay if you like. John and Phil, I do encourage you guys to stay while we kind of bring in the cake and cut it. And for everybody else here, we look forward to talking to you in person in the next about 35 minutes. Thank you so much.